Hello, my fellow solopreneurs, artists, and inventors. I've been really reflecting on the kinds of posts I've been seeing on LinkedIn and on my design business. And there have been a lot of posts of late, and they've been about obstacles. Now, this may sound crazy to you, but I love a good obstacle. Now, why do I love obstacles? Because I believe that they are the spark for abundance. And before you say, hey, that sounds crazy, how the heck would an obstacle lead to any form of good abundance? Well, this is how. Before I started a business being a 3D motion design freelancer, I went to college for industrial design, got a Bachelor of Science in Industrial Design from University of Cincinnati. And I think back to that time in my life and how it changed how I approach motion design, how it changed how I approach design. And I want to know if this is how you approach design too, because I believe we all overcome a lot of obstacles as any kind of solopreneur, as any kind of artist. Whether if you started a business or not, you've had to overcome obstacles. And when I think back to that time in college, every single one of my professors seemed to repeat this thing as if it was some kind of mantra. They would say, creativity cannot exist without a problem. You need the constraints of a problem, of a challenge, of an obstacle in order to come up with a creative solution. That creativity is born from problems. And I never thought of that before I got there, but once I was there, I realized that that made a lot of sense. Now, the kind of workflow we had to go through in college is a good example of that. We learned a design process. And the design process started with looking at something with brand fresh eyes, doing research, learning everything that you can. And during that phase of research, you were looking for something in particular. The thing you were looking for in that part of the design process was a problem, was an obstacle, was something that made life hard. And the reason why you did that first, before sketching, before 3D modeling, before prototyping anything, was because teachers said, you never designed without doing research, without having a direction, without having a problem to solve. The purpose of creativity was to solve problems in industrial design. And before some of you say, well, isn't art about beauty? Yes, it is. Beauty is solving a problem. I'd even argue that beauty in itself is a function. It is bringing light to our lives. Because life can feel hard and dark. What's a good solution to an obstacle? It could even be a little bit of laughter. There's creativity in jokes. There's creativity in humor. That creativity came from a problem. There's a lot of comedians that have had tough lives, and they create the best jokes, and they make us all feel a little bit lighter. When you design a product, you're designing a product to solve a problem. And that's what I did in industrial design before I got into animation. Now, what are animations doing? Well, I do a lot of work for engineering companies. I'm helping them communicate their ideas because they're having trouble doing that. And that's a problem. They need to communicate their brand. They need to communicate to their clients, to their investors. They need to get an idea across in order to succeed as a business and continue succeeding, or to push themselves up to that next level. You can't rise up to that next level without a problem to solve. There have been times in my business where I hit a block that was so big, I thought, this could do it. This could end this. And at each one of those points, I discovered that not only am I stronger than I thought I was, but that there was always a solution. So we talked about the design process. You start off with research, you find a problem. Okay, well, what do you do with that problem? How do you get to the solution? Well, there's a ton of methods. And I think a part of it is time. You need time to process the problem, to look at it from all different angles, see all the working elements in it. Who are the stakeholders? Who is this affecting? Understand it, look at it hard, understand the problem. Once you do that, you can do the ideation phase. Now, the ideation phase can come in many different forms. It can come in sketching. I remember we had to sketch at least 100 different ideas to solve one problem. Like if you want to design a better toaster, you've got to sketch at least 100 toasters. They don't need to be great sketches, but the purpose of them is to help you think through the problem. Sketching is a form of thinking. Sketching is a form of thinking. It puts your thoughts down on paper. Each line is a step forward to a solution. They didn't need to take a long time. We do 1-minute thumbnails and do 100 of them just to get your mind moving, to get those ideas flowing, and to get them out on paper. And if 99 of them were horrible, that's okay, because one of them may just be the one that works. So you sketch, you explore. And this isn't limited to sketching. Another way to explore solutions is that you can go ahead and brainstorm with other people. It's great to do that with people in other fields with different backgrounds and different perspectives, because they face their own challenges in life. They face their own experiences. And each experience that a person brings to a table makes an idea better. So abundance, what does this have to do with abundance? Well, we're talking about ideation. What is ideation? It is an abundance of ideas, of potential solutions. Abundance is creativity, because creativity leads to an abundance of options. So when a door closes, what do you hope will happen? You hope that another door will open. What opens up that door? Creativity. You sketch 100 different ideas, you have 100 different doors to try and open and see where they lead. Now that is when you get into prototyping. If your solution isn't a physical product, maybe it's a system. Maybe you test that system. If it's a product, maybe you test that product. If it's a business model, you test that. If it's an art form, you test that idea. If it's a design, you test it. You test it. And you learn from how that test goes. Maybe it fails, Maybe it fails. I've tested ideas and they have failed. Believe me, it has happened plenty of times in my life. But you learn something from that failure. And the best part about an obstacle, the best part about a failure, is that you can learn from it, and that leads to more creative ideas. And you just continue ideating from that, exploring more options, and that cycle goes on and on. Exploring, and during this whole time you're going through your life and you're grabbing inspiration. The whole inspiration for this video came from a LinkedIn conversation about obstacles and abundance. And I realized we were talking about two different things, because I was talking about creativity and the other person was not talking about creativity when they were talking about abundance. And then it hit me that creativity is abundance. And when I talk about abundance, I'm talking about solutions. I'm talking about options. I'm talking about doors that you can walk through. And every single person watching this video who's an inventor, who's an artist, who's a solopreneur, you have creativity. And creativity is powerful. And I'd argue that creativity is more powerful than money, because options are powerful. And what is money good for? It gives you options. Options also come from creativity. And creativity is a skill that can be learned and practiced. Sketching was a practice of creativity. How many ideas can you come up with? How many solutions can you come up with in an hour? And sometimes you feel like you hit that wall. But then sometimes you take a nap or you come back or you go for a walk and the ideas start coming in. That's why I say it takes time. Creativity takes time. And if you're feeling frustrated right now, I believe that if you give it time and you give it all the beautiful creativity I know you have, you will find the solution for your business, for your product, for your design, for your art, for whatever you're doing in life. And that will be beautiful because you'll be bringing one more thing into this world that makes this world a better place. And that's what design is about. That's what creativity is about. That's what inventing is about. If you'd like to hear more about my business experiences and experiences as an artist and what I've learned along in that journey, please check out my newsletter, where I share different blog posts on what I've learned so that you can apply them to you and your business. And I believe that you can do this. An obstacle is not an end. It's a billion solutions waiting to happen.